Good morning. The camera too close today? It's fine. I was trying to do this like live on Facebook, the events, right? Schedule an event or whatever the case. But I couldn't figure it out. So back on StreamYard. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Lighting looks good. I figured out this whole out thing. Oh man. Oh, there we go. Okay. Mm, 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 mm. I like the screen. Sorry, I mess with the screen on my side. You don't see it, but I do. Solo layout. Okay. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Nice. Good morning, good morning. Vincent, I don't remember. Let me see. Let me see. Grow your picture a little bit. I know. Good morning, y'all. Good morning. Hey, did you guys see the blog I wrote? Yeah. It's an interesting one. I did a lot of research for that one. I thought it was interesting. So, those of you who haven't read it yet, um, I got the veteran.com website up. And on there, there's a blog section now. And in that blog section, let me see. My phone's not silent. Text me. Not go right. Um, yeah, so in the blog section, there's a blog there, and the blog is about veteran representation in Hollywood. And I wanted to go into veteran.com and then go to the blogs. And then there's only one blog. I'm going to start putting a lot of blogs on there so you guys can kind of pick my brain. But it's veteran.com. Spell veteran with a B.com, and then you can go check it out. I got a few shirts on there too. If there's a ranger in the bunch, you'll like one of the shirts. It's pretty cool. Either way, whatever the case. Thank you for the happy birthdays to my daughter. It is her 1-year birthday today. Kind of crazy. Time has flown. Man, well, I love the fact that my advice worked. It's nice to hear that from time to time. Instead of, I hate you, Dad. Kidding, but not kidding. You know what I mean? No, so I wrote this blog. You can find it, like I said, on veteran.com and go to the blog section. And it's about the veteran representation in Hollywood. And the reason I felt so compelled to write this, because not only am I just in the Hollywood space and kind of frustrated with every veteran you see in film and television is a drunk, struggling with post-traumatic stress or potentially commit suicide, right? And okay, there's a minority of veterans who go through that, but the world believes, the world, I'm talking the masses, the people that are not veterans, like the average person who cares about veterans, um, has gone on to believe that's really who we are and what we're about, right? And and you might not think so. So there's a study, right? I'm gonna have to pull this up because I'm trying to talk some science, right? What happened was look, do you want me to talk about it? Because I will. If you don't want me to talk about this, I won't. But if you want me to, I will. There's a I was always personally, I just kept watching the messaging that people would put out there, right? I kept seeing, people would post these pictures of a dude with a gun to his head and all his buddies around him, right? Like this one dude kept posting that same fucking picture for years. Sorry about the cussing. Those watching on LinkedIn, I know it's a more professional platform. I'll keep that to a minimum. But yeah, so everybody for the past look, I've been in the veteran mental health space, working with veterans and helping them and helping myself at the same time for I got to say 10 years plus. All right. And I've been in the social media space for, man, 10 years plus, right? Like easily since 2012. I've been in the space of just, I ran Vigilant Guard for a long time, which is a page for veterans who are struggling with post-traumatic stress and other things, anything, right? It's a page for people, right? And so, it's evolved watching social media and how it's used, watching people and how they talk about it, and watching, kind of like the ins and outs of mental health on social media, and people starting to tell those stories more and more. And as I've watched it more, I've realized, like, man, we're not doing a good job. Like, we're doing the kind of the opposite, right? What we're highlighting, and I've said this in so many speeches, I'm actually going to talk about this tomorrow at the military influencer convention. I'm genuinely going to talk about this subject right here, right now. So if you guys are not going to be there, well, you're going to hear it right now. I am absolutely frustrated about the messaging that's gone out there. Everyone who is in support of veterans essentially feels really bad for veterans, right? They in good intentions, right? In the Ranger Battalion, or even in Ranger School, they used to say good initiative, bad judgment. That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what this whole movement of 22 is. This 22 movement, or whatever you want to call that, is good initiative but bad judgment, right? What you don't realize, what we didn't realize, the inadvertent effects, right? The residual effects of telling someone they might be a statistic actually leads people down the path of using that option, because it now has become an option. We have given people the option for suicide because we keep telling them about it. Like, hey, there's a good chance you might be one of those statistics if you don't figure it out, right? If you don't transition well, you could be a statistic. Or guys calling in the middle of the night say, man, I'm struggling with my demons, I might be a statistic, right? We've actually given them that verbiage. We've actually put the idea in their head, and it is manifested in what you see today. Okay, the Army is like realizing this now. They're like, holy crap. All this time we've been doing suicide prevention, it's actually been worse. We made it worse, right? There's an actual study. There's a white paper study. Let me see if I can pull this right now and post it onto so you guys can dig and reach, right? And learn, right? It's about educating ourselves. It's not about like blind. I'm not blind talking about this. I really genuinely studied and looked for it and reached out to some of my mentors to be like, hey, dude, am I crazy? Am I crazy? Because I feel like what we're doing is wrong. I feel like all this negative messaging is just putting us down a bad path. So let me message. How do I message? Oh, I'm going to go on my own live through my phone. Let me put my volume down, and then I'm going to post it on the chat through my phone. So if you're on Facebook, I'm going to throw it on Facebook, and then I'll jump over to what's it called right now. Man, I can't even find my own live, bro. Are you even live, dog? Are you even live right now? There it is. Okay. I'm going to go into the chat. I don't know if this is going to try and stop me from doing this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to paste. Boom. Okay. So in Facebook, there's the link, and I'm going to go over to LinkedIn right now and do the same. I've never tried this with LinkedIn. There it is. There's my pretty face. Boom. Okay. So in LinkedIn, and then I think I have someone listening currently right now on YouTube. So let me give him some love real quick and give him that same link. Boom. There you go. Okay, so check out that link whenever you got some time and read about it. And essentially what it's talking about, what the link is telling you and telling us, oh man, my YouTube is always popping, bro. It's the contagion of suicide behavior, right? So it is contagious. Essentially, the more we've talked about it, we've made it contagious to others around us. And so it's all the messaging of like the gun to the veteran's head and all these things. Like we thought like this is going to cause an emotional response, and people are going to be emotionally invested into veterans and suicide, and they're going to start researching this more. We're going to find answers for veteran suicide. It's like, whoa, we were wrong. It did the actual opposite. What we did was we caused a tidal wave of people thinking like, well, maybe because I'm feeling bad, because I'm not doing so well, because I haven't got the counseling, I haven't fixed the trauma. Maybe this is just the way it needs to be. And then they add alcohol to their system, right? They add alcohol to anytime any of us is stressed out. we're celebrating or we're stressed out, we drink. And in this case, when someone is going through a crisis, right, they're going through a divorce, they're going through financial issues, they're going through work issues, going through chronic pain issues, going through their own traumas of post-traumatic stress, they're drinking. And then when they're drinking, you kind of lose all inhibitions, right? You should be like, you know what, my whole screw this kind of, I call it the F it, right? The F it button, the F it switch is easy to push when you get drunk, right? You're really like, yeah, well, F it, you know? So when you've been drinking and now you have all this other stuff stacked on the plate, the first thing that comes to mind is exactly what we've been messaging throughout the veteran community. It is ridiculously wrong. Like, I'm not sure where anyone else is like, am I crazy here? How come there's not very many of us talking about that? We all emotionally are invested in the subject, right? We all care about our veterans, or at least the ones that do. That's why you have over 100,000 veteran nonprofits that talk about, we're going to help change suicide. We're going to stop and fight suicide. It's been 20 years, and there's been very little change, right? There's been very little shift. Recently, it's been beautiful to watch that people are in the wellness space. If you are in the wellness movement, you are right. If you're in the wellness movement, you are correct. You're going down the right path, because what we can only do is prevent people from going into crisis. And how do you prevent people going into crisis, right? And I say crisis, I'm going to use that term as the messaging that I'm using for today. Crisis. Okay. We need to stop people before they get to that point. And how do you do that? Well, we have to teach people how to be financial literate. Financial literacy is everything. A lot of us weren't raised with that. A lot of us don't know what to do with it. And a lot of us, you could do a lot with a little. Okay. And understanding your finances, that'll get rid of one stressor. I got my man, Ben Berkman, here listening right now. He's the dude I talk to all the time about finances. Financial literacy is extremely valuable. That's one. There's like these pillars, right? I would say there's probably 5 or so, right? Addiction. That needs to go, right? This whole thing where we think we need to drink is wrong. And it's going to take a long time before people get to that, like to finally accept that one. It'll take a long time for people to accept that one, but that we'll just put that to the side here. I said it, you know it. I believe that. Alcoholism, oh my, that's one of your biggest things, right? That's kind of the frosting on top of the cake that says, got it. Let's move on. Relationships. A lot of people don't know how to have a healthy relationship. They don't even know what a healthy relationship looks like. Shit, I didn't know what a healthy relationship looks like. Okay. I didn't know what that looked like until my wife was blessed into my life. That doesn't mean that everything is perfect. We have to still navigate like our two mindsets. I'm a very driven, hardworking, almost singular focus at times. That can be non-conducive to the family life. And she has to be like, yo, check the brakes, son. You need to slow that down. We need to focus on these kids. We need to focus on our relationship. Let's go on a date. And I'm like, yes, you're right. And then there's times where we're so focused on the kids. We're like, hey, hold up, baby. We got to focus on us. So relationships, we need to teach people how to have healthy relationships, understand what a healthy relationship is. Okay. And then if you have an unhealthy relationship, and then you also have bad finances, and then you also are drinking a shit ton, well, man, you're just adding down to the spectrum of, here we go. We're on a tightrope walking this thing and trying to balance all the chaos. And at some point, when you fall off that freaking tightrope, what's your answer? So we need to stop talking about the issue, okay, of the issue of suicide and saying, oh man, we need to stop suicide. We need to put more money in nonprofits that are gonna, I don't know what we're gonna do with veterans. No, we need to hit the wellness, right? We need to hit it before it even happens. We need to be proactive in teaching people how to live healthy lifestyles, right? That would give them the least amount of opportunity to find themselves in crisis. So teaching how to do finances, teaching how to have a good relationship, teaching them how not to be an alcoholic or a drug abuser, right? Addiction is a tough one. There's clinics for it. There's things we can do for that. But we need to teach that. We need to understand how to mitigate pain, because pain, man, I used to have a bad back issue. And like that pain was one of those things that took me to the edge of like, yo, I don't want to live a long life with this back pain that I can't even chase my kids around the yard, right? That was my own personal thing, right? And then you got things like trauma. You got to heal trauma. Trauma is the thing that'll chase you, right? So trauma could be from your past. It could be from when you were a child. It could be from the military. Veterans don't have the monopoly on trauma. So like, I want everyone to know this, like, we don't own that space. If you're human, it's a human thing, right? So it's it's existing in life, you can potentially have trauma. Almost, I don't think there's any other human in the world who's lived this perfect life in a bubble, because everyone has their trauma. And their trauma is the spectrum, right? What's trauma for me might not be trauma for you, so on and so forth. So understand that. So sometimes as veterans put ourselves in this little pocket and say, no one understands me. It's like, yeah, we do. Like the fundamental aspects of trauma, we get it because we've all been through it, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I've been abused. Okay, well, so have I, right? Things like that. Like we are not alone, right? We're not alone on an island suffering through life. We're all kind of suffering this life daily, right? We all got to find a way to mitigate that suffering the best as possible so we can actually enjoy this life, right? Like that's really what we're doing here. We're trying to find a way to mitigate trauma, mitigate madness, right? The world is kind of mad, right? Things happen. And then at the same time, like as long as we're taking care of ourselves, like we have to know like things will pop up, right? Life will find a way to humble you, right? And so are you in a good position to take that, like that humility, that kick in the nuts when you're not expecting it, and being able to be like, okay, cool, I can get past this. I can dust myself off and get back in the box and take another swing at it. That's just the reality of life. We're all gonna suffer at some point with something, right? Like there's always gonna be death. Like that's just the inevitable, right? And then there's always a potential for something to come out of nowhere. COVID. When COVID happened, like whatever you believe in, it doesn't matter. It all affected us financially. I mean, most of us. It affected me financially. You know, I went from like excited about going to Mayans, and then like, okay, well, in between Mayans, we're not even filming for another 8 months. So what now, right? So that changed a lot of things in my life. And so luckily, I was able to find a way to balance that by getting another job on the side, whatever the case. So continuing on the conversation is the veteran community had good initiative, but bad judgment by jumping on the most negative aspect of being a veteran. What we should be doing, okay? If you bring up a problem, you should have a solution, right? What we did was talk about suicide. What we did was give people these very emotional images and posted and shared and said, I'm here with you, brother. If you guys need me, I'm here. Like we got it. But when someone's in crisis, they don't think to call. They're in crisis. They're seeing red, literally. And so my point to that is that we have not given them an answer. And so what the answer would be, okay, the answer would be we should be highlighting successful veterans. And I say that with like, we should be highlighting the doctors, the astronauts, the businessmen, the car salesmen. I don't care who it is. Anyone who's done something after service that is in a good, well-rounded place, who's not someone who has found their way. Because what you do then, you have the youth, right? The young veterans who get out of the military and they're like, where do I go? And you Google, like, what should I do next? And maybe you can find a list of the 50 the most successful veterans in the world. And they can be like, well, cool. How can I be like them? They need something to chase. They need something to follow. They need someone to look up to. They need someone to want to emulate. Like, how can I be like him? Right now in acting, there's probably me, right? A lot of people, there's several people, but there's people that would be like, oh, I want to be an actor. Well, let me look up this veteran who's acting and how did he do it? And they could actually get a hold of me if they need to, but not even that. Let's talk about writers. There's a lot of successful authors, veterans, and they're making a career out of this. And we're not highlighting these people. We're not highlighting these successful individuals and giving light, right? We need to be able to create the beacon of light for them to follow. Because right now, the messaging that's just blanketed across the world is that they might be a statistic. That's wrong. There's no business ever. Let's talk about you social media marketing guys. There's no business ever that has found success of marketing their worst item or their biggest flaw or their lack of inept freaking capabilities of being a good business. Like nobody's talks about the negative. Like there's no one that says, hey guys, I'm not going to lie to you. These products, we're screwing you over, right? No one's going to say that, right? No one's going to talk about the negative. No one's marketing the negative, but for some reason, everyone championed behind the most negative aspect of being a veteran, like the most negative aspect. And then we forget that this suicide thing, it's a phenomenon in the United States of America that is taking over everyone, kids, law enforcement officers, men, everyone's suicide is an issue that has to be, we have to figure out what that is. And maybe it's because we talk about it so damn much too. I don't know, but I do know you're just as likely to be in that position as being a civilian in the United States of America than you are a veteran right now. That's like the numbers are ridiculous. They're astronomical. And then so how do we help everyone across the board? Like we have to really start working in this wellness space of finding a way to mitigate all these stressors that put people in that position, right? So then what I did, I was like, man, how can I address this, right? How do I focus? Let me see if my wife's active side. How can I, oh, no. Okay, good. Boom, 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 boom. Cool. Moving on. All right. How can I look at this whole thing about veterans and suicide, and how can I take a step back and take an out of the box approach to this? How do I fix someone before they break? And I say break, I was just using that as a term, but how do you fix someone before they break? Well, let's get to how do you raise someone to have resiliency? Because the root of this, I believe, is good resiliency. If you have strong resiliency, you can take a hit on the chin, no point intended, but you could take a hit on the chin and be like, damn, that sucked. Okay, let me fix it. I can do better, right? It's like this when you get a divorce, right? If anyone's ever gotten a divorce, there's two ways of doing this, right? You can go to the bar and drink your life away, or you can go to the gym and get better for the next person. There's only two ways of doing this. You either get better or you get worse. You let it own you and just crush you, and you never find yourself ever again. Or you be like, you know what? Okay, I can do this right next time. And then you actually fix all the little issues you did in your first marriage, so then your second marriage is hopefully healthier, right? That's the same thing. In life, we have to be able to take these unexpected blows and be able to come back from that and be like, okay, fine, that's going to happen. Continue moving. And so I just step back and be like, okay, what are the things? What are the little issues that people struggle with, right? Finances, yes, all the time. That was my biggest stressor in my life when I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I don't know how I can get out of this. I'm calling people for bankruptcy lawyers. I'm trying to figure it. Like I've been to that point where I'm like, am I going bankrupt, or am I going to just drive off into the sunset and never show up again? Like that's how I felt trapped. So I know finances make you feel that way. Relationships can make you feel that way, hands down. Embarrassments of whatever the case and this and that. Like there's a long list of that. Unhealthy relationships, right? Unhealthy relationships can be really just that toxic relationship can ruin people. And so that's another one, right? So teaching people how to understand finances. I think, okay, well, we can fix the finances. We can show people how to understand money. We can show people how to have healthy relationships. We genuinely can. Ego's a big one. Ego's a big one and everything. I love that you said that, Mark, Scott. But then you got addiction. Addiction's a killer. Addiction is a killer because it kind of exponentially makes everything else worse, right? And then you got pain, right? Pain is one of those things I don't even know how to fix, right? Like you have to find a way to mitigate pain, whether it's get yourself in better shape. My back was bad. I did stem cell treatment. Fortunately enough, there was a nonprofit that was able to help me get stem cell treatment. When the stem cell treatment was done, I started to try and get myself in better shape. Right now, my back is doing great. Knock on wood. Right. And then you got what was it? Trauma. Okay. Healing trauma. We got to heal trauma. You got to address the trauma. You got to address the trauma from your childhood. You got to address the trauma from anything. If it's something that you think about, that is something that you're holding on to, and you got to find a way to let that go and accept. That is just the facts. You have to be able to accept the past and say, okay, that did happen. It sucks to think about, but you know what? We can move on and we can be stronger. Right? When you go to counseling, this is what they do. They find ways of giving you ways of coping and accepting the trauma and saying, okay, this did happen. Now I got to find a way to move past it and not let it slow me down. Okay. And so these are the things that I've learned in my life. And I'm just kind of giving them back to you guys. And I just want to be on the soapbox and saying it is that, so these things, these five, and then there's these social things that like social, like phenomenons like COVID, that was hard. COVID was hard for a lot of us. It kind of made you feel lost, kind of made you feel alone. You were secluded from the world. And so that's another one that you just can't understand. And then there's a thing called moral dilemma. I call it moral dilemma. Okay. Moral dilemma is you have gone too far somewhere that you are so embarrassed that the only action for you feel is that. That's moral dilemma. So in my list of things, I have finances, I have relationships, I have addiction, I have pain, I have trauma, and I have moral dilemma. And that's the one that I believe puts people in a really bad place, in a bad position, where say you stole money from your work, whatever, a significant amount of money, and you're scared you might get caught or whatever the case, or you did some kind of corruption thing, who knows, whatever it is, whatever the list of moral dilemmas are, it could even be whatever, and moral dilemma is a spectrum as well. What people see is one thing is another, right? So Say all it is was just whatever the case, whatever it is, right? That's another one that could put people in the bad place. So what I try and do, so now that I say I've stepped back and I've looked at why people would take that choice, and here's the list of the things why I think people do more than anything, all right? And then we have to start fixing those. And I think the only way you fix moral dilemma is having some kind of faith. And I'm not saying you have to be any type of religion. I think you have to just understand there's a higher being, and we want to just be good people. We want to be good humans to society, to the people to the left and to the right of us. We just want to be good for ourselves. Okay. And then we want to fix our trauma, right? Think about trauma as a stack of papers. And what we do is, like, from when I was from as early age as I was little, I can think about something that was traumatic in my life. And there's things, right? And we just stack those as papers, right? And by the time I'm like now 41, I have, a stack of papers. I mean, thousands of papers. And that's essentially what I've done with all my trauma throughout all my years. And I've just kind of stored those, and eventually they find a way out, right? Trauma finds its way out in some way. It could be insecurities, it could be ego, it could be alcoholism, it could be addiction, it could be whatever it is, right? Like all that stuff pent up and in there that you're just unhappy with, or you're just hiding within yourself, and you don't want to accept, and you don't want to allow to say, like, yeah, that sucked. Those things will haunt you. They will eat at you from the inside out, and it'll project itself out of your body as other things, right? As the alcoholism, right? It'll project itself as like this very angry person or whatever the case. So you got to fix trauma. Plain and simple. You have to find ways of doing it. There's so many cool ways of doing it these days. Look into psychedelics. Look into all kinds of different counseling modalities, different kinds of therapy. Was it meditation? There's so many ways. Sweat lodge, like all kinds of things. Like the Native Indians have some really cool traditions that I really love learning about and doing. And so I would recommend you guys check that out. Okay. And so that's healing trauma. We got to heal trauma first of all. You got it from the inside and the out, right? And then outside of the trauma, then what were we saying? Pain. Pain is another one, man. You don't want to be addicted to painkillers, right? You got to find a way. I don't know what that is. I did stem cell treatment, and it changed my life. Genuinely changed my life. And so I just know that's one of the answers. I think there's several other peptides that are coming out now that help with healing of different tissues in the body. I would look into that. I go to get my hormone replacement therapy through Core Medical Group. Okay. It's the company that I use, I believe in. I'm actually potentially going to start my own here in Salt Lake City, Utah. That's how much I believe in what they do. But fixing the hormones for men and women is so valuable because for some reason, I can't tell you whether it's the food, whether it's the vaccinations, whatever the hell it is, our testosterone levels are all out of whack. On top of that, there's other things. And so I'm not educated enough in that subject to even continue to talk on it, but I would say there's things out there that will help with pain. There's things out there that will help with your body hormones. And that to me is just as important as the mental health side of things. Continuing. Outside of pain, then we talked about relationships. I don't think people understand what a good relationship is if they've always had a bad relationship. It's like, it's a very interesting thing. And so, I did a thing in the military called Strong Bonds. I thought that was pretty cool. You know what I mean? I think it just touched the surface of what good relationships could be, the communication could be, and things that are not toxic, like in like just really, really ugly fights, whatever the case. There's a balance to trying to find that healthiness. And what also helps that is not drinking, right? Because when you drink and you get in an argument, that's like that's like throwing gasoline on that fire. And so knowing what a good relationship is, having a good relationship, and knowing when to walk away from a really bad relationship that is just causing more trauma than you could ever imagine. And so that's a hard one. People have to figure out how to do that. I can't give you all the answers to that, but I feel like I can say I'm in a healthiest relationship I've ever been in my entire life right now, and I am blessed for that. But it took a lot of work from my own to make sure that I'm improving myself for the next person, right? That I was doing the work and knowing where I fell short in my other relationships as well, right? And so we addressed all that very early in our relationship, and it's helped significantly. Continuing on. What was the first one? Oh, financial literacy. Dude, I have screwed everything up and fixed it twice. Trust me when I say this. Like, I have made a ton of money and blown it all, and then also didn't even understand what taxes was, and then owed a ton. And all these things like were such mistakes that it easily could have put me in a jam. I found my way through them. I've worked my way through it, and I'm still learning on how to get how to do smart choices in investments. Not cryptocurrency yet because I don't know enough about it, so I haven't touched it. But I'm learning just smart investments, putting some retirements together, putting those life insurances together. I'm doing these things. I was paying those bills, getting off credit, and I've been able to do that, fortunately enough. But trust me, there was many years where I felt like I couldn't breathe. There was many years where I felt like one paycheck was paying off a credit card, which one credit card was paying off another, and it was just like it was this reciprocating rat race of just trying to chase bills, and it was frustrating. And I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was constrained. Like I was like, I'm never going to get myself out of this jam, and I didn't know how to. You know what I mean? And so I've luckily been smart enough, and my wife is great with this. She's really the one who manages everything, and that has been able to put us in a place where, like, okay, cool, we could actually have a savings. Wow, that's weird, right? Like I can actually, if a car breaks, I can actually pay for that and not stress. And I'm not saying it's huge savings or anything like that. I'm not, I'm not by any means. My point is that I've finally learned how to put a little away every paycheck and be able to have something for that just in case emergency that I've never had in my entire life. Never in my entire life. And so I say all this now is there's a long list of things. You guys might have to go back and listen to this video more often or more times, but we have to stop focusing on the most negative aspects and talking about suicide. What we need to address is how to have a healthier lifestyle, how to have a more healthier lifestyle so you don't find yourself in trauma. And that is how we start creating this movement in healthy veterans and healthy people, right? And so I say this like I'm now currently working with the Border Patrol, and I knew the military did this wrong. I knew the military's approach to it, and every nonprofit that's that jumped on board and really cared. I know they cared, but it was, like I said, good initiative, bad judgment. I now working with the Border Patrol in this same aspect and said, let's stop talking about it and let's show these Border Patrol agents how to have a healthy lifestyle, a healthy, well-rounded lifestyle, because that well-rounded lifestyle will lead them in a good path. And that good path means they have a long life, enjoying it with their family. And any kind of hiccups that happen in life, they're well suited and prepared for that. They have the resiliency to be able to adjust fire and continue the mission. And so that is what I'm saying in this whole speech that's taken forever to talk about. I'm sorry. I really want you guys to think about this. So all of you guys are in corporate offices, all you guys have these nonprofits, and all these people that have a heart for veterans, and you want to help veterans, help them live a healthy lifestyle. Okay, let's stop focusing on the suicide topic. And if you want to prevent suicide, you have to show people how to live a healthy lifestyle so that they don't put themselves in crisis so easily. There's too many people living at the red line financially, red line in your relationships, red line in your alcoholism, red line in your trauma. And they're not fixing those first. It's like you give someone who's never had $1 million, they're going to burn through it. If you teach someone who knows how to manage $1 million, well, that $1 million could last them a long time. It's the same in your life. Teach people how to live a healthy, well-rounded lifestyle, mind, body, spirit, soul, right? All that. And you will have people living a long, fruitful life. But if you're just telling them there's a chance they can be a statistic, trust me, they will take that chance when crisis hits and you haven't prepared them for that. You haven't given them the tools to deal with that. I would never in my life raise my kids and say, you might be a statistic, son. Yeah. I'm worried about you. I'm nervous. I think you might be one because, the world's telling me that. And so I'm scared for you. That's bonkers. You would never raise your kids like that. You're going to teach them how to be resilient. You're going to explain to them, like, here's life. Here's how to do your finances. Here's how look, if you break up with a girl, you should go to the gym. All these things. I would teach them all the ways of living a healthy lifestyle, understanding life and understanding that things happen. Shit happens, right? And we're going to keep pushing through it. Right? And all you veterans that are listening right now, I promise you this, no one's going to heal you besides you. You have to take the initiative. You have to look in the mirror and say, I want change. Cool. Let's start somewhere. Even if it's the smallest step in the right direction, start now. You veterans have to take life into your own damn hands and control your own destiny. That's the facts. Truth. If you're struggling with demons, go get help. If you need resources, hit me up. I have a long list of these bad boys. Trust me. I've used them all. Okay, so you guys need to start taking this into your own hands. You guys say, listen, I want to be good for my kids. I want to be good for my wife. Shit, I want to be good for myself. And if that's what you want bad enough, trust me, the answer's out there. You just got to do it yourself. Put in the damn work, and I promise life gets easier. Jesus. All right, I'm done. I love you guys. I'm out of here. I'm about to go talk to a middle school about something. I don't know. You guys go check out veteran.com. It's up, it's running, it's live. Go check out that blog. Please read it. And read the Hunter 7 Foundation, an incredible nonprofit that's working with veterans and cancers. Their studies are so scary. Listen, the numbers are there. Go read the blog. I want you guys to soak that all in and think about it. If you guys have any contacts in anywhere, the New York Times, anywhere, get that blog and email it to them or mail it to them and get them to post that thing, because the world needs to understand we are taking this approach to veteran suicide wrong. Okay? We're doing it wrong, and we need to fix that. Okay? It's up to you guys now. Now that you have the message in your hands, it's up to you. I'm out of here. I love you. I'm out.